Hello, and welcome to the Intro to Programming series. If you clicked on this video, then you are curious about programming and want to learn a little bit more about programming. This series is perfect for people who do not have any idea on what programming is and are interested in getting started. So before we jump into the coding side of things, first question we need to answer is, what exactly is programming? The simple answer to that would be programming is the act of creating programs, but that's an unhelpful answer. Programming is essentially writing detailed instructions for the computer to follow. And when the computer follows those results, usually some sort of result happens. You click on a button, a window pops up. You click on new email, you'll be able to send somebody a new email. Even video games are programs. You click on a character and the character will be highlighted. You attack a character, then the damage will be dealt and the character will then now have less health. So all of these instructions are there in code to be able to produce a result. The language we're going to be using to write these instructions is Python. So the question to ask is, why Python and why not any other language? Because as you can see for the second bullet point, there is no best programming language. I am simply using Python to introduce this course because one, Python happens to be one of the easiest languages to learn. And I find that lowering the barrier of entry for anything new makes it easier for somebody to be successful at learning a new concept like programming. Also, while Python is the easiest language, it is also one of the most popular languages that is used in a wide variety of industries. So if you're thinking of getting into web development, Python is involved in that. If you're thinking of getting into machine learning, Python is also involved in that. Data science, also Python is massively huge in the data science community. So learning Python isn't going to limit you in any way. And the amazing thing about programming is once you learn your first programming language, the second and third and fourth languages that you learn will become easier and easier and easier because while each language does have its own advantages and disadvantages, they all share a common set of concepts. Those concepts are actually what we're going to be going over today because this course is called Intro to Programming and not necessarily Intro to Python. We're just going to be using Python as a lens to look through to learn programming, but it does not mean that I am limiting the knowledge of what we're going to be going over specifically to only Python knowledge. The next question to answer is, what makes a good programmer? So if you are interested in making a career change or simply just want to get your hands dirty with writing some code, then you may have asked yourself, well, what makes a good programmer? One of the most common questions that I have always received is, do you have to be good at math to be a good programmer? And my answer to that is no. So unless you are specifically wanting to get into the data science or machine learning side of things where math is a little bit more involved than just a software developer might need to know, then yes, math skills are important. But as a software developer, being good in math doesn't necessarily translate to being good programmer. However, to answer the question, do you have to be good at math to be a good programmer? And usually, where that question comes up from is because a lot of people who are good at math may be good programmers. And I think the commonality between those two is not that math equals good programming, but problem solving skills equate to a good programmer. And math problems are usually required a lot of problem solving skills. So I think that's why people look at programming as a math related skill, but it really isn't. It's more of a problem solving skill set than a math solving skill set. So the first thing with being a good programmer is being able to problem solve. And it does not have it that does not limit itself to math and it can come in a variety of ways. The second attribute that makes you a good programmer is curiosity and consistency. So, programming is not easy. There are a lot of concepts to know, and there are a lot of wires to plug in and a lot of wires to detangle. Half of your time in programming is going to be fixing the errors that pop up. So, being curious about where these errors are coming from will be able to help you become a successful programmer. Also, consistency. We are learning a programming language, and much like a real life language that you might learn, unless you use that language every single day, then the knowledge and the skills of that language go away. Same thing with programming. If you don't program for a while and you don't keep using those skills at a consistent rate, then your skills will deteriorate and you'll be left behind. Curiosity also has to do with the fact that programming is an ever changing field. More languages are being created, languages are going in and out of fashion. So, being able to really be curious about the ever changing nature of technology, really, and programming is going to be helpful in keeping you a successful programmer. And then, lastly, the third attribute is teamwork. Now, this might seem like a standard attribute for being a successful person, but I think it's a attribute that doesn't get talked about in programming enough. I think a lot of people see programming as a singular activity, but really, most of the times you are going to be in a development team working with others and being able to coordinate with your other developers to be able to work towards a common goal. So, soft skills, I think, are something that doesn't get talked nearly enough in a developer setting, but I think it is an absolutely necessary attribute to being a good programmer. So, once you learn programming, how can you apply that knowledge and skill? This is going to sound far fetched, but I believe that there really is an unlimited potential in programming to helping out in your life. And I say that because it doesn't limit itself to just professional usages. You can use programming in your personal and professional usages. There are so many tools and so many open source projects that exist out there that become available to you once you learn programming and are able to understand other people's code. Even if you don't necessarily have a mastery over code, just the fact that you understand programming is going to give you so much more access to tools and resources that you didn't know that existed. Also, programming is applicable to any industry and background. Technology and programs and computers exist in almost every facet of our life. So, if you understand programming, then you understand how to work with any computers. And computers have essentially invaded every single aspect of our lives. It almost seems like every appliance in your house has a computer built in. So really, there is no limit in programming, and it's not limited to a specific industry, nor is it limited to a specific background. I mean, there's so many ways that programming can lend itself to providing you the skills and resources. And if something doesn't exist, then it is totally up to you to be able to create that tool for yourself. So, if you're still interested in programming and continuing through with this course, there are some prerequisites that I am expecting for you to have before starting this course. Don't worry, you do not need to have any technical background needed at all. I am going to be expecting that you are coming truly as an introduction to programming and have no programming knowledge previous, but I do expect you to have computer literacy. So if you can work your way around the computer, if you know how to use websites and get to a specific website and be able to type decently enough, then you are more than ready to be able to go through this course. Also, tenacity. Programming is a hard thing to learn. There are certain concepts that truly don't seem to exist in any other setting than in programming. So some concepts may not come as easily as learning something else like sports or another skill set. So tenacity, I think, is just generally a good attribute to have, but I think in programming, it is absolutely required. Again, programming introduces a lot of bugs. We would have to be the ones to fix those bugs. And I have to say, after 6+ years of programming, bug fixing has never ever gotten easier. I may write less bugs, but in the I still write bugs, and at times it is as hair-pullingly difficult as it has ever been. But once those bugs are fixed, I still end up with a great product, and I am happy with the results that I have gotten. So, tenacity wise, it's going to be absolutely necessary as a prerequisite. So, if you have all of these prerequisites and you are still interested in learning programming, then I say welcome and let's have some fun and write some code. To run our Python code, we'll be using a website called Replit. Replit is a free website that we can use to actually create apps. They leaned really heavily into the AI generation of code. So being able to use Replit to just write some simple code actually became a little bit harder and a little bit more hoops to jump through recently. The easiest way that I found to be able to create a simple Python app where we can just write some simple code actually is to just make a clone or import from a project that I have created on my GitHub. So when you get to Replit's homepage, click on the import code, click on GitHub, and you're going to paste this link in the chat. There may be a warning about agents having fewer guardrails. That's fine. That's just AI generation. You can make it public if you want, or you can keep it private. It really doesn't matter. And then once you have the check to go for that, just simply click on import from GitHub. So importing the process, the AI is going to try to do a bunch of stuff. And again, this is a free tier setup, and there is a limited amount of AI agent allowance that you get on a day, but it's really not going to be any issue where we aren't going to be using any AI assistance at all. But when you do import this, the AI is going to try to add and complement the code that I have there for you. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but once it is done, we should be able to utilize Replit to run some simple Python code. And your AI generation, again, it might look a little bit different from mine, but I was able to add a couple of files where the AI doesn't go too crazy with trying to add things on. So yours might have a different result. You here in this instance, it created a markdown for Replit, which again, totally fine. It really doesn't matter at the moment. All we care about is if we drag and drop the AI window away, and at the upper right hand corner, you'll see this icon for toggling files. When you open up this file, you'll see at least the main.py. Double click on that file and you'll see print welcome to intro to programming. This is the programming file that I created for you to be able to write your Python code. From there, you can just close the file, toggle it away. You can always open it back up. If you accidentally close the main file, you know that you can always find the file over here on the upper right hand side with the toggle opener. Double click, you get to have your file open. But once you also have your file open, I just closed my terminal. But if you happen to accidentally close your terminal, right click on the tab, open up the console, close the tab, and then what you're going to do is drag and drop this window so that we have these two windows side by side. This way, when we run our file, which is this green play button that's up here, the run project, we'll be able to write all of our Python code on this left side, and then the results will display on the right side. So this is a really the simplest way that I could find of using Replit. Again, to Replit is a simple place for, or used to be a simple place where we could just write some Python code or any code and run them, but they really have leaned into the AI generation of code. You can actually play around with Replit quite a lot. The free tier still has a limit in terms of how much of the AI agent that you can create or process you can use. But as you can see, they have their paid tiers that you can pay up to. Again, we can stay on the starter tier for now, and the importing the GitHub project. And again, just to show you, I will be able to you'll be able to clone from my GitHub that project so that you have a Python file. Don't worry if you don't catch the link. I will make sure to include the link to my GitHub in the chat, not in the chat, but in the description of this video. But from there, if you ever decide to stop the video and come back, Replit closes, and you're coming back from programming, just come back to Replit, go back to apps. You'll be able to find the Replit project that we cloned. Click on that, and it should open up back to the window of how it was. But that actually sets everything up for us to begin started on our programming journey. I'll see you in the next video.